President Lagarde, the ECB president in Paris today, said that the coronavirus adds a new layer of uncertainty for the European economy. Now, I know next week you're going to publish your economic forecasts, but what kind of an impact are you expecting here in Europe?
Well, I think that the impact will depend on how long will this coronavirus spread lasts. Because obviously this is affecting supply chains in several industrial sectors and our exchange with China, but it is difficult to forecast the impact, not knowing how long it will last. Obviously, we hope that the extension of coronavirus will be under control very soon, not only for the life of the people affected, but also for the economic consequences. If it will last for long, I think that we have to consider the possibility to have some consequences in our global growth. If it will rapidly be contained, I think that the consequences will be perhaps only on the first quarter of this year. It is difficult to predict this now.
Understandably, that is probably the line you take. But if it were to extend, Commissioner, the Chinese are already launching a very substantial fiscal and monetary response to what is happening in their country. If the effects were to come to Europe, is Europe capable of delivering a similar fiscal and monetary response?
Well, I would say yes, in the sense that apart from the review of our rules of economic governance that I launched this morning and that will take for a few months, in fact, we already decided in recent meetings of European Ministers of Finance that in case of deterioration of the economic situation, we are ready to adopt a much more supportive fiscal stance. What is sure is that we can't leave only to monetary policy and only to the ECB the task to support economy if there is a serious risk of a slowdown in our growth. And this risk could be also coming from external factors and unpredictable factors as the coronavirus is. Now it is early to assess this, but I think we are ready to react if needed.
Commissioner, today you presented a review of European Union economic governance and also opened a debate to the public and to individual countries' finance ministers on the future of economic governance. Is there a desired framework? Obviously, you have the two-pack reforms and the six-pack reforms out today, but if there's more room for debate, what does the final framework for economic governance among the EU members look like?
Well, the final framework will depend on the evolution of this public consultation. What is clear from my point of view is that the rules that we have were created 10 years ago in a completely different economic environment. We were in a deep crisis, and after the deep crisis we had several years of growth and the coordination of fiscal policies reached good results. Now, since a couple of years, we are again in a different situation with a slowdown in our growth and with a very challenging commitment that the European Commission took about the carbon neutrality in 2050. So these two reasons, slowdown in one side and the challenge of green transition, oblige us to consider our rules, giving more space to investments and to a more coordinated fiscal stance among European member states. I repeat, we can't leave the European Central Bank alone in helping the European economic growth.
Commissioner, fiscal policies have been pro-cyclical until now. Is there going to be latitude in coming years for that stance to move, for fiscal policy to become more counter-cyclical?
That is the point of weakness of our regulatory framework in these years. It was effective in reducing deficits. It was also effective in overall reducing debt, even if we still have countries with high debt. It was not effective in having counter-cyclical policies. And this is, I think, the task we should have in the next months and years, especially because of the fact that we need an enormous amount of investment if we want to tackle the challenges that we have in front of us.
Commissioner Gentiloni, are you hinting at the fact that the move for Europe to become carbon neutral by 2050 may lead Europe towards relaxing its current fiscal rules? Does the green push open the door to more fiscal flexibility?
I think this is absolutely the core point of the public debate that we will have with member states, with parliaments and with stakeholders in the next months. But it is sure that if we are serious in the challenge of the neutral Europe for carbon emissions in 2050, we need an enormous effort of investment, and this should bring us not to fragilize our financial stability, because we are confirming our commitment to financial stability, but to increase our capacity to have a pro-growth policy and investment. This is the core target of the revision of our regulatory framework.
Can I just take you away from the review? You've said in this conversation already a couple of times, we cannot rely on the ECB. Are you hinting, Commissioner, at the idea that maybe the ECB is starting to run out of ammunition, that we are reaching the point where fiscal policy has to take over from monetary policy?
Well, I think that Mario Draghi and Christine Lagarde repeated several times in the last couple of years that the monetary policy alone is not sufficient. We have to say that the European Central Bank not only probably saved the single currency, but also helped to avoid serious decrease in our growth. But the ECB monetary policy now is near to the effective lower bound of monetary policy. And a fiscal policy supporting this effort is strongly needed. We know that our tools are tools of coordination. We don't have a single European fiscal policy. We are coordinating different member states, but this coordination should be in help of the task of supporting and enhancing European growth.
Is there more willingness on the part of Germany to agree to, modifying EU standards, EU policies? There hadn't been before, and I'm also curious as to how you merge everybody's opinion when, in some cases, there isn't even a stable government.
Well, I think that in the public consultation that we are launching today, we will understand the different position among member states and stakeholders. Something is already clear, that if we have to be if you want to be coherent with our ambitious programs, if we want to have an advanced role in the green transition, and we want even to have a leadership in the global green transition, we need to coordinate also our fiscal policies in this direction. It will not be an easy discussion because you perfectly know that there are different positions in different member states. But at the end, I think that with a common effort to bridge the diversities and different opinions, we can reach these goals in the next few months.
Commissioner, final quick question. It is being reported that Washington, that President Trump is looking at withdrawing the United States from the WTO's GPA agreement, which effectively gives preferential treatment to European companies competing for government contracts in the United States. If that were to be the case, A, how would Europe respond, do you think? And B, do you think the tariff issue is off the table between now and the November election, or does it still represent a significant risk?
Well, I have seen in recent weeks a better atmosphere in our trade relation with US, and I appreciated the first phase also of the solution of trade tension between US and China, but for sure it is still an open issue. So from one side we are the stronger friends and allies of US, and on the other side we have to defend and protect our European interests. But I am confident that we will reach solution, because escalating tensions on trade is, I think, something not useful not only for us, the Europeans, but also for the Americans, especially in an election year. And as far as WTO is concerned, I think we all have to stress the importance of our multilateral framework, because it's very easy to abandon them, but it's very complicated to rebuild confidence.